Michael was incredibly lucky. He's traveling to the outer planets in the spaceship of his dreams. But there was no joy on his face, more like sadness. Because not long ago, an alien ship suddenly appeared over the city announcing to the world, via shortwave radio, they are Conomet. They will send a representative to visit Earth. The arrival of the extraterrestrials was feared, but the authorities are not prepared to deal with it. Instead, they are speculating about the purpose of their visit. The UN Secretary General has advised everyone to remain calm and not to act rashly. He believes that the notion that aliens are bad people is extremely immature. He reassured them that everything was under control. Soon after, a representative of Conomet, Richard, arrived at the UN. Everyone there was surprised to see him. The Earthlings were a dwarf compared to him. Because Conomet is over 2 meters, 8 meters tall, weighing more than 200 kilograms, Richard explained that they were outside the galaxy, living on a planet more developed than Earth. This time they came as friends. Although he knew the language of the Earthlings, but they never use their mouths to speak. Because on Conomet, communication is done mentally. The voices that the people hear here are all mechanical. They wish to live in peace with the Earth, and will do their best to help the Earthlings. And in the future, they'll open up visits between Earth and Conomet. But the delegates questioned Richard why he chose to visit Earth. Richard explained that the Earth is facing serious problems of survival. They believe that these disasters can be avoided. So he was here to help. When asked what form that help would take, or what happens if people don't want to accept it, Richard said they wouldn't force them to do anything. They're free to accept it. And they were offering a new kind of energy that exists in nature as atoms. It can provide the Earth with low-cost electricity. But despite all this, people were skeptical of its uninvited humanitarianism. They asked Richard if he had any ulterior motives. Then he replied that Conomet would prove their good intentions. He demonstrated how, by adding cheap nitrates to the soil, to solve the problem of famine forever, and he'll put a wall of air over every country with the principle of stance that can withstand a missile attack and impenetrable to all weapons. Their request is relatively simple, is to ask the people of Earth to trust them. And Richard put his book on the table. Soon the speech was publicized in every newspaper in the world. Some long-term thinkers were curious about alien language and writing, and Michael was one of them. As an expert in decoding, he tried his best to decipher it. It took a long time, but nothing came of it. He thought Conomet was 500 times smarter than Earthlings. The language is 1,000 times more complex. They both believed that decoding the book would reveal Conomet's purpose. From what they've done on Earth, they don't seem like bad guys. Defense officers are too confused by this, because they recently conducted soil experiments using a new type of nitrate. After a few hours, the soil had more vitamins than a drugstore. It's really helped in a lot of places where the land is poor. Looked at the Conomet books, Michael got worried. He wondered how long it would take to decipher it. He had a strange feeling that the Earthlings had received the gift of Conomet, and yet they're still picking on them. It's like a fault-finding exercise. He realized that the reason these two officers were worried, they are afraid that Conomet will really help the Earthlings, and then they'll be out of a job. Because when there's enough food on Earth, there'll be no wars or diseases, and the Earth will be a happy place. There will be no need for these administrators. But the colonel thought he was imagining things, so he reminded Michael to keep his head down, to continue with the decryption. While the atmosphere was stagnant, Patty arrives, and told them she'd cracked the book's title. Michael was beaming, and a little bit proud of himself, because it was so in line with his earlier point of view. The words on the cover of the book translates to serve man. It's like Conomet is so full of the spirit of service. To allay fears and doubts, the UN showed a video of Conomet's lie detector test at the conference. The scientists first asked Richard some simple questions, and answered a question twice, truthfully and falsely, to ensure that the polygraph would be effective against aliens. Then the scientists asked him why he came to Earth and give so many gifts. What was his real purpose? Richard replied that they were bringing peace and an abundance of resources, which they had already brought to other races across the galaxy. When Earth is free of war and famine, and endless suffering, that's what they want in return. Soon scientists came up with the results of their experiments. This alien was telling the truth. The polygraph was clean. Since then, many authorities have declared disarmament. Countless people expressed their gratitude to Conomet. They were like the real Santa Claus. The Earthlings used the technology and equipment they provided. Soon the desert became a garden, and the air barrier to end the war worked well. The Navy and Army were no longer useful. Shortly thereafter, travel flights opened between Earth and Conomet. Thousands of people lined up to board. Passengers talk excitedly. The average temperature on Conomet is 24 degrees. The sun never sets, and their clothes are all metal. It looks so good. Once the ship has landed, there are plenty of novelty stores to browse. At this moment, the desire to visit Conomet is at its peak. Although it's a journey of billions of miles, but it's only a few days away. Many people go there and never come back. Michael and Patty couldn't help but sigh. This may be the time of peace. No wars, no famine. Even the intelligence services have nothing to do. They're just going about their daily lives. Conomet has embassies everywhere, so thousands of Earthlings leave with their ships every day to live on their planet. Michael found it strange how quickly people had adapted to this easy life. He and Patty were already on the waiting list for boarding, so Patty thought she'd do something worthwhile during the long wait, and that was to crack the rest of the book. Only the title, which was too much for her obsessive-compulsive mind. The day finally arrived. Michael was ready to leave for Conomet. As he was about to board the ship, Patty rushed to him and yelled for him, but she was stopped by management. She was out of breath, and shouted at Michael not to get on the ship, because she's deciphered the rest of the book. To Serve Man is on the cover, but it's actually a cookbook. Hearing this, Michael instantly realized the crisis. He wanted to leave, but it was too late. Conomet Consummate pushed him down and quickly retracted the gangway. So Michael got on the ship and headed for Consummate's planet. And what he had just seen was a memory of his time on the ship. Then Consummate came to bring him another meal and reminded him that he's been eating too little lately. Thinking about being cheated, Michael was in no mood to eat. He slammed his plate in anger, but soon Consummate came in, picked up the food on the floor, and handed it to him and asked him to eat more. They didn't want Michael to lose weight. When Consummate left, Michael couldn't help but ask if the Earthlings were on Earth or on a spaceship like him, but it didn't seem to make any difference where they were. Sooner or later, everyone would be on the menu. And then Michael devoured the food as if he'd figured it out, because he knew the end was near.